Coaches, welcome to the lab. It's Sunday, and I'm blessed to be joined by Coach and I were just talking. We've followed each other. We've DM'd on Twitter for a lot of years, but haven't physically had a face-to-face conversation. So, Coach DJ Mann, the director of offensive personnel at SMU. Coach, thanks for taking the time on a Sunday, getting you out of your husbandly duties on your time off to talk some football, brother.
Man, super blessed that you would even ask me to come on and talk a little ball, man. So my wife understands. She knows this is the passion. This is kind of what gets me going. This is my ministry. So like I said, man, thanks for being patient with me and letting me get down with you.
Absolutely. We were trying to set this up and you're like, Coach, hey, love to do it, but, we're on the move and from A&M to here. And, I'm just happy we got to finally, get this done. So, Coach, we were talking off camera a little bit. Talk us through your journey into college football. Like we're both high school coaches. You've put your time in. So kind of the people that want to aspire to get to you want to get to. Like, just tell us about your journey.
Man, first off, I'm glad you said we're both high school coaches because I was having this conversation the other day. I'm going to always be a high school coach. Like I'd have to coach a lot of time in college to have more time spent than I was as a high school coach. I mean, I did 18 years of coaching middle school and high school football. So I don't think I'm going to coach college for 18 years, man. I don't know if I have that in the bag, but man, it's funny, I played college ball and I started off as a volunteer. I remember emailing 18 high school coaches in the West Texas, in the Panhandle area, just saying, hey, can I come volunteer? And one guy responded, Coach Parr at Amarillo Polidoro. I owe him and his family so much. And he called me up and I'm thinking I'm going to come sit out cones and, maybe wash some towels. And next thing I know, man, I'm actually helping coach the inside receivers simply because I knew the air raid offense, man, went from there to move to Dallas, graduated college, moved to Dallas and got thrown into some fire. Thought I was a really good coach. I was coaching quarterbacks. I was a co-OC. And when I look back on those times now, I was bad. Had no clue what I was doing, but I like to work hard. Man, just kind of moved around a lot of different places. Was at Wiley High School in the North Dallas area. Had an opportunity to coach in the state championship. Moved out to East Texas. Man, I was in Houston at Crosby High School. It was my first real offensive coordinator job. And I've always been the recruiting coordinator at every school that I went to. Got back to Dallas, went to Carrollton Ranchview, went down to Cedar Hill for 4 years, had another opportunity to coach in the state championship. Crazy thing is I've coached in the state championship twice and I've lost to Katy High School twice, which is, they beat a lot of people at the state championship.
Yep.
But man, I got a chance to learn so much there from Carlos Lynn, from just being a recruiting coordinator. We signed, at the time, it was like the most. We signed 27 kids 1 year. It was like the most in the country. That was pretty cool. Like I said, coached an Elite 11 quarterback. From there, I got an opportunity, man, to lead my own program at Lubbock Coronado, be a head football coach, athletic coordinator. And the sweet thing about that is my alma mater. So I graduated high school there, man. I had an opportunity to go home and just be a blessing to the same kid, to the kids that walked the same halls I walked and sat in the same locker room that I had an opportunity to play in. And man, had some success, had some really bad times, but was able to be coach of the year for the area. Won the biggest game in school history, was a district champ, all that stuff. But also lost some games I shouldn't have lost. And but I like to feel like we sent more kids to college in those 4 years that I was there than they did in, man, probably 10 years. And I got the most joy out of sending kids to the Division IIs, the NAIA schools versus, it's real easy to send cats to, the John Currys to Texas Tech, where it's, when they get off the bus, they're 6'3", 220 pounds. That didn't have nothing to do with me. That was all sweet baby Jesus right there,
Yep. No
so,
doubt.
From there, man, I got a call from Alex Brown at Ole Miss, and he was like, would you come out here? He asked me how much they pay. I asked how much they paid and said, let me go check with the wife. And she said, okay, we'll try it, man. And they took a chance on me out there at Ole Miss. I went out there for a little bit, had a good season, working for Coach Kiffin. Left there, got an opportunity to come back to Texas, be a little closer to mama and everybody else. Went to Texas A&M, had an opportunity to be in the playoffs, had 2 top 10 signing classes, and, you know, things got sweet. Coach Lashley, once again, I feel like took a chance on me and got me back to Dallas, which is even closer to mama and family. So, man, it's just been a blessing, man. It's been a really long ride. I'm getting ready to start I'm only 41 and I'm getting ready to start year 21 in football. But, man, it's been a fun ride and it's been a blessing, man. I know that's long, but I've been a lot of places.
Hey, listen, I think it just speaks to the people that believe in you. I also think it speaks to your work ethic, and you know, and I want to go back to the point you made about the signing classes. You know, I've been very similar. I've been the recruiting coordinator at places that I've been here in Florida, and but it's the kids that are the D2 NAIA kids. You know, like you said, there's the P4 kids, man. They're it's just steering them to stay in your lane, right? It's like don't veer off the path, and you'll be solid, right? It's those kids that are like those tweeners that, you know, where do they fit? They're really good football players, but where do they fit? And I think that's where, you know, breaking your bones as a recruiting coordinator, I think that's where you show that. And I think too, like, you know, you talked about the 27 kids, like a lot of that had to do with the relationships that you built with coaches. Because I always say, and I'm sure you say the same thing when you were coaching in high school, I'm not going to lie to a college coach for you. I'm going to tell you, like, I'm going to tell them straight up, like, hey, I think this kid fits. He may fit somewhere else. But to me, it was the relationships that you built and the honesty with those coaches that they appreciated from you that got those kids to where they were going to. And in today's landscape, man, they may be NAIA for a year, hit a 3-inch growth spurt, and boom, they're gone. They're out, you know? So it's I just wanted to bring that point up because I think that's a key point for any coaches that are going to listen to this. It's going to be like, hey, you know, your work's going to be in those lower level kids. Do you just want to speak to any experiences you have with any of those guys? Yeah,
like we signed 27, and I think 5 of those kids were Division I, maybe. You know, so that's I don't care what program you are at. Like I was at Cedar Hill, like this is big time national level football. You know, I've been at some really good programs. I've been around the Duncanvilles, not coaching there, and the DeSotos. Those teams are going to have more Division II players than they have Division I players. So that's like when you're a recruiting coordinator, you have to be very careful with like how you're treating coaches when they come in. Like, you know, everybody wants to be really kind to Texas A&M, Texas, Florida State when those coaches come in.
Yep.
You honestly, you don't have that many guys that can play for those schools, you know. But when those West Texas A&Ms come through, or the West Alabamas, or you know the Division II schools, the Valdosta States, or whoever it is of the world, it's more than likely you're going to have, no matter what type of football program you have, you could be a 16-0 team.
Yep.
You're going to have more Division II NAIA players in a certain class than you will big time P4 kids.
Like I said, I can't agree with you more, and I love your example of treating the coaches a certain way. Like I use an example with our parents and our kids about Brandon Staley, who was, you know, Coach Harbaugh took over for him with the Chargers. But I said, hey, that guy was a Division III defensive coordinator 5 years before he was a head coach in the NFL. So it's like if you treated that guy any different as a D3 defensive coordinator, like that'll be a problem, because again, we all talk, we move jobs. Everybody communicates, you know, about everything, you know, in today's world. So I think those are all great points. And I know you're at A&M. Coach Elko is a guy that I met. He was at Wake Forest, recruited one of our safeties down here. It was a 3-year starter for him at Wake Forest. So, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Coach Elko, and obviously I know you are too. So.
He's a guru. Oh my gosh.
That guy could build rockets, man.
You know, I thought I was pretty smart and knew some ball. and I sat in the meeting just kind of and he was just talking about like third down situation, first down situation. And I was like, oh man, I got a long way to go.
Yep.
He different.
Oh no, he's, like I said, he could build rockets for NASA. Like there's no doubt. The intellect is off the charts. So the role you have now, okay. So what's a typical week look like for you all season versus season as far as a director of offensive personnel for SMU?
I mean, off season or in season, it's always about finding talent. You know, we're always going to be looking for talent. Like right now, I have a pipeline that I have to clear up of players, and I think I have 98 kids in my pipeline that I need to go evaluate.
Wow.
You know, from all across the country. You know, once you get more into season, you want to do a good job of watching your currently committed players, just to make sure they're progressing, make sure they're not, you know, they got that scholarship. Let's make sure they're not going to get lazy now that they've gotten that offer or they've committed or whatever. So you're spending a lot of time actually watching full games as the season goes versus, you know, in the spring, hey, it's a lot of highlight based stuff. You're trying to cover so many kids, but, you know, once you get in that season, you're going to go watch your commits or your guys that you think are close to committing. You're going to go watch a full game every week that they played. So it's not a, you know, a big change from season to off season, but, you know, like I said, you're always hunting kids, man. That's the big thing.
So I think that the one thing for me is, okay, so you got 98 kids in your pipeline. Speak to the kids that I'm sure your Twitter is blown up exponentially with huddle and quick cut and whatever, but speak to the highlight message versus you now watching or going in person to see a full game. Like, I guess talk about the differences, especially if there's a guy that's on the fence. It's like, you know, coach will says, hey, you know, coach, man, go see this, you know, this running back out of this high school. Like, and you really like his highlights, but now you're watching the full game. Like, kind of explain to the coaches and the players, like, how does that impact your decision as far as going forward?
Well, you can hide things on a highlight. You know, you can hide a football player's character on a highlight film, you know, because you're only going to put the positives. Nobody ever, you can run the best route in the world. They're not putting a drop on a highlight. You know, you can drop back, make three guys miss, throw a perfect spiral, but the quarterback's not putting that pick on the highlight. You know, one cool thing you get to see, you know, if you're going to see a kid in person or, you know, you watch a full game, you kind of get to see the character. You kind of get to see, you know, how are they playing when they're winning or when they're losing? You know, how's their body language on the sideline, you know, listening to a coach make adjustments? Are they sitting there with their towel on their head, with their, you know, looking down while the coach is holding the board? Maybe they made a mistake. And you get to see how they are after they've made a mistake. You get to see how they are after they've made a big play. You know, are they going and celebrating by themselves or looking at the other team acting a fool, or are they kind of celebrating with their teammates, man? And so much of that you can't get from a highlight, but so much of that's going to tell you what type of ball player you're going to get for the next, you know, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and I think, but again, I think being in Texas, I think is an anomaly as far as the recruiting world, right? Because like you guys really, honestly, like unless you want to, right? Like you don't have to go out of your state, correct? And unless you get a directive from your superior saying, hey, go see this kid in Louisiana or go see this kid in Arizona, right? Like you guys have enough talent in that state for you to stay at the home base, you know, correct?
Yeah, like if we really truly don't have to leave Texas. Now the thing is there's so many people that recruit Texas, and everybody's going to send their best recruiter to Texas. They're not sending their third guy, their fourth guy here. They're sending their number one dude, especially to the Metroplex and to the Houston area.
Yep.
But with us, you know, at SMU, man, being in the ACC, you know, we're going to play games in California. We're going to play games in North Carolina. We're going to play a game in Georgia. We have to go to New York. We play Boston College. We play in Florida. So because of that, that kind of opens up the country to us. So now we can legitimately go to the East Coast and say, hey, you have an opportunity to play a couple games out here. You know, so it doesn't scare them too much. And one of the most beautiful things about being in Dallas, there's 2 airports within 30 minutes, and there are a trillion direct flights. So now it's not a situation to where you have to worry about landing in a city and driving 1 hour and 30 minutes to get to our campus. You can land, you know, you can fly to Love Field and be here in 25 minutes at the right time.
Yeah. The years I coached at the International Bowl for USA Football, Texas Live was my favorite, right at Arlington, man. That was a good good spot. Lockhart Smokehouse. Shout out to Lockhart Smokehouse. Some of the best barbecue. And I got a question about that at the end for you, Coach. But
I'm with it.
So I didn't think about that. Like with the ACC now, it's like that does open up things for you guys, you know, in a recruiting end. I wanted to ask this to you. My brother-in-law is the assistant head coach at Wake Forest, and they played out at Stanford. And how does the scheduling and the conference the way it is now impact you guys? Like practice, like preparation, like it's got to be a bit of a, I don't want to say struggle, because obviously, you know, you guys will always figure something out, but like it's got to strain or stress a little bit if you're in Texas and got to go to New York to California and so on.
And this is my first season here in the ACC because I was at A&M last year. But I do know one good thing about us is we play the majority of our games on Saturday. And I think right now we have one on Friday.
Okay.
So being in Dallas and being able to fly out real quick, I don't think it's going to throw off the schedules too much for us. And, you know, now having to fly from Wake Forest to Stanford is a whole nother ball game. Or like I said, having to fly from, you know, a Cal to Miami, I can't imagine. Especially, and I think about like the equipment trucks that probably have to leave on, you know, Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, thinking about those equipment guys getting things packed up and having to make sure you can still practice. Now that's the hard part. Football players get on the bus and fly.
Right.
You know, coaches get on a plane and fly, and coaches get on a plane and fly. You know, those equipment guys, the people that are behind the scenes, the trainers and equipment people are the ones that are really riding that bus across country and doing those things, man. But, you know, one thing I know about Coach Lashley is he has a vision and he has a plan for everything. So I will be excited to see, you know, how we handle. I mean, we go to Florida State, first game of the year. We have a game at Syracuse. You know, I'm very intrigued by the logistics of things. Once, you know, when I was a high school head coach, I kind of like to see the, you know, how do we put practices together? How do we move this many people? What time are we waking up for, you know, breakfast and things like that? Those are the things that are very intriguing to me, even more so than, you know, what we're doing on third down and, you know, what our P10 looks like.
I can't agree more. So what do you think is, and this is kind of like just a base question. It doesn't have to do with SMU, just with your experience in college. What has been the biggest challenge in building and maintaining a roster depth in today's college football environment?
I mean, yeah, the portal does make it hard, man, because you know, if a kid doesn't like where they're at, they can just get up and leave. And some of the programs that I've been at, you know, I've been blessed, super blessed to only be in the SEC and now be in the ACC. So I've been at, I mean, this is weird. Every program that I've worked at has been to the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know,
well, let's keep this going, Coach. Let's do it, man.
A&M this year, SMU made it 2 seasons ago. So it's really, man, trying to make sure you're good with retention, you know, and making sure you're taking care of those kids. But that's been the hardest part about building depth, because, you know, a second, third string football player at the programs that I'm at can go to another program and probably, you know, play a lot and be very successful and make a little money doing that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, you know, making sure the culture's strong and keeping the current kids here. That's a challenge. And there's not a lot of guys coaching college football that can truly successfully navigate, you know, keeping your kids and then bringing in kids, and it doesn't destroy your program.
Yeah. And like, I guess you're wearing two hats here, you the college, and now, you know, you've been the high school, you know, coach. Like, is it a season by season, in just your experience, not necessarily here, because I know you just started, but is it a season by season, year by year thing with, you know, high school recruiting? Because again, obviously the portal, I think the portal, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the portal hurts certain positions. I think there's some program, and I think it's a program by program thing, right? I think some positions are more portal based, and there's some that are more high school. But just your experience, like with the portal, like what message would you say to high school coaches in the country, with your experience, kind of maybe a little guide, maybe a little bullet pointed list?
Like I know the high school coaches hate the portal for the most part because they feel like it takes opportunities away from the high school kids, man. But a good football player is gonna have a home. A really good football player is gonna have a home. A good football player may not have the same home that he had 5 years ago.
Sure.
But there's going to be an opportunity for him to play football. The portal didn't hurt the really good football players.
Yeah.
It just kind of changed things for the mid-tier football players.
Got it.
The mid-tier football players that may have normally went to a P4 team, now they're going to have to go to a group of 5 team, which is okay, man. Like, that's one thing I try to explain to people. Like, there's no harm in being an All-American at a smaller school. Like what's wrong with that? We're getting your jersey retired somewhere.
Yep.
But now what happened, and I don't think it hurts certain positions. It's just that like it's going to hurt more of the mid-tier guys. If we just going to keep it 100. But yeah, man, the thing is, the beautiful thing about it is you can go to some of these schools and ball out. And now you're back in the P4. You've proved yourself. And now maybe you're more valuable than what you were coming out of high school.
Yeah. And I I coached in New Jersey for 14 years before moving down here. And we have the Division threes, all the Division threes up there. But like now down in Florida, like we have no D3s. We have, we had a D2, which is now FCS. West Florida just went FCS. But like we have a bunch of NAIAs, and I tell our guys all the time, like, you understand, like you could go play at an NAIA for 2 years, no eligibility loss, you get bigger, faster, stronger, and you probably have your bachelor's degree. And then you want to go in the portal and go to a D2 or FCS or FBS. And, I agree. Yeah. I think like you said, I thought the point of the good football players will always have a home somewhere, that those guys that are the mid-level that, may go either way. Those are the ones that it's going to hurt. But I thought those are all great points. What advice, or I guess, how do you balance at your position the high school recruiting with the portal evals? Sticking on that topic,
man, I'm the most like biased guy towards high school kids. I want all high school kids. I'm a high school football coach. I have a high school age kid.
Yep.
But that's not realistic. To be successful, you're going to have to go get some older kids that can help you win right now. Now we do want to do a very good job of getting high school kids. We want to get the majority high school kids if we can. But like I said, that's not realistic. But, it's a balancing act. I've spoke on this is, what deficiencies are you going to be okay with when taking high school kids versus a portal kid, which, normally you can coach some things out of high school kids. Everybody, nothing against high school football coaches, but, everybody's not a great coach. I was a bad coach at one time, and I had to send kids to college. I'm pretty sure I've sent some kids to college that's had to have some bad things broken. You know what I'm saying? When you're looking at a kid coming from a P4 school, it's a lot harder to break those bad habits, because now you're talking about, maybe a 22-year-old kid that's always ran a route this way, or they've always had their hands outside and passed pro. They've always moved laterally this way. Whereas, like I said, a high school kid, hey, you can fix a lot of things from 18 years old. By the time they get to 21, you got them going exactly how you want them. But now you may take a portal kid that's a senior. What you see on that film, that's who he is.
No, I mean, that I think that's awesome. Like, because again, there's the high school kid who's kind of like a ball of clay, right? And you can bring him in and mold him to your culture. And then you bring the portal guy in, and it's like they've already been in, set in a way of a certain culture, and now you're going to try to build them up. But I think that's a really good point for people that are listening to this. What are some of the differences between the recruiting department and the personnel department, if any?
So like, you got recruiting, and then you have like scouting.
Okay.
You know, they all kind of fall under the personnel thing. You know, you have some people that they just scout. They watch film, they determine if a kid is a good football player or not. Then you have recruiters. Those are the people that's getting things set on the visits. Those are the people that are trying to convince those kids to come to your university. I don't think there's a whole bunch of them, but there are some kids, some coaches, some people out there that are good scouts and good recruiters. You know, and I think you never want to just kind of be lumped into, oh, he can only scout, but he can't talk to humans.
Right.
You know, or this guy can get kids on campus, but he can't watch film and determine if it's a good player or not. I've learned just from the people that I've worked with that you better have the ability to do both if you want to survive in this business. Like I'm getting older, man. I can't be the cool recruiter for real long. You know, I'm not bro. I'm ump now. You know, so I got to be able to bring some things to the table other than just being the cool guy that can talk to kids.
So, looking at your guys, so just talk real quick. Two-part question. First part is offensive identity for SMU. And then two, you as the offensive player personnel evaluator, what are some of the things position-wise that you're going to look for, whether it's, quarterback, receiver, running back, O-line, tight end? Just speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything extremely different from everybody else. And I'm going to try my hardest not to be like cliche crap, you know what I'm saying? But man, at quarterback, we want a decision maker. We want a guy that can move around and make plays with his feet. You know, it's hard to win today's game. As a statue, as a guy that's just going to truly drop back and can deliver the ball, but he can't create. Offensive line wise, we want guys that are going to be athletic, because what we do on offense, the way we run the ball, the way we throw screens, you got to be able to move. So, you don't have to be the big 360-pound mauler, like you may see at some places. Like I said, we want to be able to move. We want to be athletic. We're going to pull with those guys. We're going to run some outside zone stuff with them. We want an athletic, shifty running back. We don't have to have the guy. It's nice. They're useful, but we don't have to have the 220-pound guy that's going to bruise and get downhill. Running back for us, you have to be able to catch the ball out in space. You have to be able to run routes. You also have to be good in pass pro, because everybody knows Coach Lashley wants to throw the ball, and he's been very successful at every program. I did a breakdown of him a couple of weeks ago, and I think he is a very underrated play caller. Like, if you really dig deep at all the programs he's been at and some of the things he's did on offense, man, he should be in the same conversation as some of those top 5 guys. And I don't want to mention their names, but they get brought up all the time. Like, he's one of them. Then, like I said, at receiver, we want guys that can spread the field. We can win with 5'10" guys. We can win with 5'11" guys. We don't have to have a room full of 6'3", statuesque guys. But yeah, we do want guys that can run good routes. But we want to be great with the quick game, getting the ball to the playmakers, and then letting them turn a 5-yard throw into 50. We win a lot of games being able to throw the ball side to side, also being able to go vertical. And, like I said, when we have a guy like Kevin, we can have a really good controlled pass game and be successful. And then at tight end, we need a guy that's going to be able to flex out, to make us look like we're in 10 personnel. But, yeah, we got a guy that's 240 pounds out there that can run stick, can run cross, can run the cell. It's good running shallows and things. But now we can also put him in, in like an H-back spot or even in line, and he's going to be a physical blocker and, kind of extend our surface for us.
So I guess, do you guys, when, obviously, looking at and we talked about it prior about not having to leave the state, like, is there a specific area of Texas that you guys would want to like hone in on? And B, because of the scheduling now with the ACC, obviously, selfishly, I'd love to have you come to Naples, Florida, come hang out. You know, we could do a little fishing, you know, hang out and talk some ball. Is there another area that maybe out of the state of Texas that you guys may just kind of want to go and you know, move kids to the program?
Yeah, like we've talked about it. You can really find anything you want in Texas, from kickers to D tackles.
Yep.
But if there's a good football player somewhere that's interested in coming to SMU, we'll go to Maine to get you.
Right.
You know, we'll go to Washington State to get you. We'll go to the Keys to get you if we have to. If you're seriously interested in being a Mustang, like, we're not going to ever be like, well, we only want quarterbacks from Texas.
Right.
You know, and we know, like, I mean, we have Matt Lerner's son on our roster right now. We have quarterbacks from some different places. But the one position where, you know, Coach Riley Dodge, he's a famous head coach from South Lake Carroll. He coaches tight ends for us. He had to go everywhere this spring because tight end is a position, you know, I can say this, it's probably the worst coach position in high school football. And here's why: because normally it's either an offensive line coach that doesn't understand the route running very well, or it's a receiver coach that doesn't understand the run game very well. Nothing against any human, but it's just hard. It's very hard to be great at both with the time constraints at the high school level. So it's like, all right, go over there with the O-line for inside run. All right, now go over there with the receivers for routes on air. You know what I'm saying? So you don't see a lot of overly developed tight ends unless you're at the big time programs that have 1 trillion coaches. And I mean, most of the programs I've been at, the guy that should be playing tight end is rushing the passer. Because getting sacks on the quarterback's a lot more important right now than trying to reach that end on outside zone. So you have to, I mean, we sent Coach Dodge all over the country, from Arizona to, I think he went to Michigan. He was in Indiana, you know, Midwest. They put out tight end. It's some tight end. I don't know what it is, but you got those power forward jokers up there that are 6'4", 240 pounds, that are angry, physical, but finesse enough to catch the ball, man. So we'll go anywhere. Like I never want to pigeonhole us as to saying we're only going to stay in Texas to get running backs, because, like I said, there's running backs in Louisiana. Atlanta area has a bunch of guys that can tote the note. There's running backs in Oklahoma. So we'd be foolish to shut ourselves down when there might be a kid in Arizona that wants to come play for us.
All right. So last SMU question, and I got a couple of general ones. So obviously taking this job, so two-parter, what excites you most about the future of SMU football? Number one. Number two, it's a topic that's going to be discussed until probably week 1 of the season. College football playoff expansion. Your thought. So first question is the excitement about the future of SMU football.
Man, just I haven't been here. I think I got here in March. But just kind of being around the staff, like the family atmosphere that we have here. People get along with each other. I work for a head coach that I know really cares about the people in the building, really cares about the people's families in the building. And that's very important to me, man. I mean, I'm married. I have a 22-year-old, a 14-year-old. But, like, besides that, man, like, I think we're coming into maybe year 3 of being in the ACC. The big-time football players in the state of Texas are starting to take us serious. We're not just a place where they want to come visit just because we're in Dallas and they want to come hang out, but they're taking a serious look at us. I mean, we've had probably 3 of, like, the top 12 players, 15 players, 20 players in America, not just Texas. But we've had some really big time football players come take visits here and come here in the spring. And they're going to seriously give us a shot. Like, we're getting in recruiting battles with big time SEC programs, big time Big Ten programs. And they're not just putting us in their top 2 or 3 because it looks cool. Like, we're really close to like it's a special program. I mean, made the playoffs the first year in the ACC. So like I told Coach Lashley, whatever you doing, man, keep doing it. You know, people love it. Keep doing it. I'm not gonna question anything, man. I'm riding. You say let's go, let's go. But like I said, we're starting to change the narrative about Southern Methodist University, man, and that triple D that we have all over the building is starting to really mean something. And like I say, man, soon people will understand.
So the second part is like, what's your opinion on if they were to go to 16 or 20 teams, or do you think it's, good where it's at? Like, again, it's not gospel, right? It's just a question, just a conversational.
No, I feel you. Like that's obviously way above my pay grade. But what I do like, I like meaningful football later in the year.
Yeah.
Whatever is going to keep people interested in the game, like, because I'm still a fan. Like, I still come home and put on, when we're not playing, I'll put on the 4 screens and I'll watch football. Like, I'm the dude that I'll watch Akron versus Holy Cross on Wednesday if it comes on.
That's it, man.
Like, I don't care. I'll watch a D3 game on a Thursday night if it's on. Whatever is going to keep people interested and longer and give teams an opportunity to really play meaningful football in November, December. That's what I'm for. Like I think it's pretty sweet. Maybe last year or the year before, I mean, it's 2 games left in the year and you still had 20 schools, like 20 teams that could legitimately make the playoff. Like that's going to make the game better. That's better for the fans. I think that's better for the players because now it makes it easier for those jokers to go to practice when they know that, hey, man, if we win or this happens to this team, we got a legit opportunity to continue to play football. So whatever that means, I'm for it.
I love it. I love the meaningful football. How valuable are relationships with high school coaches for you guys in identifying underrated prospects?
I think it's very valuable, man, because I think that's where I'm most useful, because I've coached against a lot of these coaches, or I was on the board of directors in Region 1 for the Texas High School Coaching Association. So I've just had an opportunity to I consider a lot of these coaches like a brother. So they're going to be willing to tell me things that they may not tell other coaches, or I'm going to be privy to information, even if it's about a family or like what's going on with this kid that other people won't know. Like, I don't care if they start giving these kids $2 trillion. Like, relationships are going to always matter. And it's something that I've told some people that I work with. When all things are equal, if we can give them 500,000 and the other school can give them 500,000, it's going to come down to relationships. You don't think that's the truth? You crazy.
Yep. No, I'm 100%. Doing this as long as I just started my 26th season this spring, and I got 2 former players coaching for me. So to me, that's the biggest compliment, is that I got 2 young kids that want to come back and learn, and I'm going to try to get them to where they want to get to, down the road, whether that's coordinator or head coach. That's just what I want to do. But I couldn't agree with you more about the relationship piece. What advice would you give a young coach wanting to break into the operations or personnel department at a Power 4 school?
Man, I get asked a lot about how I got here. More like when job season comes, I'll get it 4 or 5 times a week. Like, what can I do? How do I get here? Man, I don't have like a magic sauce answer. It's you gotta outwork people. Like, I was at every clinic, I was at every camp. I tried to be everywhere, and let me start this. When I was a recruiting coordinator, if you're a recruiting coordinator and your job in your dream is to be a college coach, be a recruiting coordinator for the right reasons. My first probably 3 to 4 to 5, 6 years, I wasn't doing it for the right reason. I was trying to get a college job. I was trying to work college camps, get gear, do all that. Now I met great people, all that, but I think I was doing it more so for like the personal attention versus trying to like get kids in college, change kids' lives. And the minute I shifted and said, I ain't gonna lie, I said, man, to hell with trying to get to college. I ain't gonna never get there anyway. Let's just take care of these kids. Good things started happening, good things started happening. So man, it's like you have to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. Like it's not getting here hasn't been glamorous. Some people think I woke up and I was a college football coach. Like I told you, man, I coached high school football for 18 years. Before, and I had a couple of interviews, leading up to this for college job, but it took me coaching high school football for 18 years before college finally said yes. And then when that college finally said yes, I took a very, very, very large pay cut. And I moved my family 13 hours away to another state. And it's such a huge sacrifice that you have to take to get these. Now it ain't like that. Some people, hey man, it just works out for them. They don't have to do those things. But what I had to endure and go through, and I wouldn't change it. I don't want to make it like woe is me type thing, but what I'm trying to say, like, it's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take the most important thing you can do is create relationships with the people that make the decisions. Find the relationships with the people that are hiring for those positions, and you have to do, and it's not going to be like I've known this guy for 5 months. I met Alex Brown, I think in 2013, 2012, 2013. He called me 2 years ago and offered me a job. Think about that, like that's a long time to Merry Christmas. How's the wife? Congratulations on this win. What's going on? How you doing? Not every week, hitting them up because I need a job, but it was like we just created a truly cool relationship, and it just so happened that he had an opportunity to hire me, and he did. So it's like create positive relationships with people, outwork people, and then just be willing to go somewhere that you may not normally want to go. If not, like if you're not willing to do those things, it's okay. Just be a great high school football coach and change lives on that level.
No doubt. And I think back to, I think when you and I first connected on social media, you were the head coach at Lubbock. And, I think back to like, those points that you're making, and, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? Like, you just be a good person, help kids. If someone, that you met down the road, wants to take a shot, they'll give you a call. And it's, doing this Matty Strong clinic, and I had Rick Minner on, Jesse Minner's dad. Rick's the senior defensive analyst with the Ravens now, and he was like, I asked him the question about wanting to get to the NFL, and he's like, listen, he's like, don't worry about the job after the one you're doing now. Like, be where your feet are. If you do a good job in that will take care of itself. And I think that's paramount to what you're saying. All right, I got 2 more questions. One football related, one non-football related. What's one piece of advice you consistently give recruits through the recruiting process?
So I've only been at like really high level places, and every kid that we're recruiting is being recruited by 50 other schools.
Okay.
And you can tell that it gets stressful on them, right? Like, they're like, oh man, I got to go on another visit. I was like, look, man, let's say you got 60 other kids on your football team. Probably 57 of those kids would cut off their left foot to be standing in front of these coaches eating this steak dinner right now that you have on your official visit, that you flew up here for free, first class. 50 of those kids would love to look at their cell phone and have 25 text messages from coaches all over the country reaching out to them, trying to get you to come to their school. So I know it feels overwhelming, but you are blessed. And I tell parents this all the time. I say, I know you get tired of me and this coach and this coach and this coach and this coach texting you, you know, but I'm a parent that had a kid go through the recruiting process, very small school. We didn't have it on that level. I thought it would have been awesome. It'd be great if my 14-year-old has these big time coaches contacting them, trying to speak with them. I said, so it's a blessing. And then one thing I tell them, I said, you know, make sure you're doing your due diligence with this process, because if you're lucky, if you're blessed, you don't hit the portal, there's only going to be 2 times in your life where you get to pick the school or the team that you play for. All right. So one time is when you're being recruited as a college football player, like out of high school, right? The second time is going to be on your second contract in the NFL if you're blessed. Because as a rookie, unless you're an undrafted free agent and whatever, and you get to pick, but like if you're a draft pick, it's just that you get drafted to that team.
Yep.
Now you got to hope you're in the league for 3 to 4 good years to where you can get that second contract, hit free agency, and now you get to pick the team. So if you get 2 opportunities, you blessed. A lot of guys don't get an opportunity to get that second contract in the NFL, man. So think about that. So you get to go through this process right now as a high school junior, senior, picking your team. And there's a very small percentage of human beings in this entire world they're going to get the opportunity to have a second contract in the NFL. So take advantage, man. Have fun with it. Enjoy it, because there's somebody that would love to be in your spot.
No doubt. All right. So last question.
Yep.
2-parter. Best barbecue in the state of Texas. And if you're going to order one thing from that place, what are you ordering?
So it's funny. I was having this conversation the other day. I'm not a big barbecue snob. So I don't think my barbecue opinion carries a ton of weight. I'm a Mexican food guy. And
all right, you know what? Okay, hold on. Let's do that then. Let's go. Let's do 2. Let's do Mexican and barbecue.
All right.
Give me 2. Give me let's say it's a combination Mexican barbecued restaurant of your dreams. And then you get to order one of each. Tell me what we're doing.
As crazy as it sounds, my favorite barbecue place in Texas is Hurtado's in Arlington. And it just so happens to be a Mexican barbecue place. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of covers it. So, but the burnt ends, and then they do a burrito taco that's unruly, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Coach. Listen, thank you so much. So, guys that are going to listen to this, ways they can get at you on Twitter, email, anything you want to go ahead and give out.
Yeah, my Twitter is the Mann Jr. THAMANNJR. That's like the best way to get in contact with me, because I'm on it probably way too much. My email is Coach Mann Jr. And here's one thing, man. Like, I don't like give my Twitter out. If you send me a DM and ask me for my cell phone number, I will give you my personal number, because I want to be the most personable, high personnel person in the country. And I've had so many people like help me get to where I am. I'd be a horrible human being if I didn't like help other people get here. Now, it might take me a day or 2 to get back with you, but I promise you, I'm going to get back with you. I'm going to do everything I can to try to help you. Like I said, because I've had way too many people help me, man. And like I said, I just like talking ball, man. And, you know, just trying to be a blessing to somebody else, like somebody was a blessing to me.
And Coach, I couldn't agree more. But listen, I thank you for your time on a Sunday, brother. Looking forward to continuing our relationship now that we got a chance to speak face to face as opposed to through a DM. But I wish you luck with the patio set tonight. I've been there, and I know you're going to get it done. And best of luck, going forward. Start the season, and I know you'll do a great job, man, but thank you so much for taking the time.
Man, appreciate it, bro, for real.
Thanks, Coach.